What's good, everybody? It's Big Jack back with your boy Mike. We're talking a little Bears football. We're going to get into a little bit of a recap and then bring you the keys to the victory for week 4 on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. First time in a long time, coming off a win. Feels good. I, unfortunately, was a little bogged down over the weekend. It's probably the first time, and I couldn't even tell you how long, probably like the last decade or so, that I did not watch the Bears game. So I don't have a ton to add as far as kind of a recap of the demolition of the Dallas Cowboys at the lakefront over the weekend. It was beautiful to kind of follow along and see what was happening. You know, I said last week when we talked about it, the Bears were one of my best bets. I did think they were going to bounce back. I did think Ben Johnson was going to get them right. You know, specifically said I do not think this is a Trestman situation where they're going to come out and get 50 hung on them back to back. I like the way that they reacted. You know, obviously came out playing with their hair on fire, got it done. It was a beatdown against the Dallas team who defense leaves a lot to be desired, but they've been pretty stout offensively, and that Bears defense shut them down. 4 turnovers were massive. Pretty cool. Caleb getting the NFC Player of the Week. That's a nice little, I don't know what you even call it, nice little accolade, I suppose, along the way to give, you know, hopefully boost his confidence, kind of keep it rolling. But Mike, you tell me, what did you see out there? What did you like? What do you know? What kind of question marks are still lingering for the trek ahead?
All right, so quick recap on your keys last week. Olsen Loveland, getting him involved was your first key. Unfortunately, it didn't happen too much because he got hurt early on. It looked like he was going to be a focal point of the offensive game plan. He did have a nice reception for a pretty good gain, and Caleb did miss him once for another big gainer. Hopefully he bounced back and can get back on the field because he needs those reps. Key number 2, cutting down on penalties. Offensive pre-snap penalties were basically, I think they were 0 or really close to 0, which is a huge thing, especially with this team. And then third, stopping the run, making them one-dimensional. They definitely did not stop the run because Javonte Williams started out really strong, and it looked like he was going to run all over the Bears. But they forced some turnovers, they got some takeaways, and they got out to a lead, which in effect kind of made the Cowboys one-dimensional. So they did more or less get that key. So the way I'm looking at it is you're pretty close to 3 for 3 on keys there, Jack. Thoughts overall on the game? It's great to get a win. 4 takeaways is something you can't expect every week. Obviously, that helps to make it a much more comfortable win. Tremaine Edmonds, for as frustrating as he's been as a Bear, was all over the football field on defense. Tyreek Stevenson had himself a nice game. Jervon Dexter had a really nice game. Montez Sweat showed up a few times. Offensively, the whole operation looked pretty good. Not going to say perfect. DeAndre Swift is not what we need in a ball carrier right now, but he is showing up in some other ways that I don't hate: pass blocking, catching the ball, etc. So it was a great game. How much of that is the Bears improving week to week? How much of it is a lesser opponent, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and the Dallas Cowboys? That's what we're waiting to see. I do think that the Bears did start out the season with 2 of maybe like a top 10 defenses with the Vikings and the Lions, and yet their offense still somewhat produced in those games. Overall, big picture, I feel good about the offense. I still have some massive question marks on the defensive side of the ball, especially because of injury. But even if it was fully healthy, I think I'd still have some legitimate question marks on the defensive side of the ball. And then lastly, it looks like Ben Johnson is finally starting to settle in a little bit. Once again, it's easier to settle in against a lesser opponent, especially on that defense side of the ball when he's the play caller. It's a little easier to settle in that, you know, in that kind of situation with a big lead. I get all that. It's still good to see regardless.
Yeah, massive. Get your first win as an NFL coach. I mean, that's no small feat. That's definitely a big deal, and hopefully a confidence builder, like you're saying. You know, I love most of the commentary there. It's great to hear a lot of those points. I think I've said all along I'm not high on this defense whatsoever going into the season. I'm disappointed with the way
you've said it for like 3 or 4 years now, I feel like.
Yeah, disappointed in the way they've gone about building it out, and you know, I think it's just kind of we've seen the results. But one of my favorite points that you make is what you had to say about Tremaine Edmonds. I feel like I heard that a lot in kind of a lot of the recap stuff and the commentary I heard about the post game and whatnot, about how Tremaine Edmonds maybe played his best game as a Bear.
Without a doubt.
He was brought in to be a real difference maker, which is, I mean, silly, kind of tough to do unless you're like a Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, Hall of Fame, first ballot type of guy at off-ball linebacker. But it's good to see him making an impact. Hopefully he can continue to do so because, we need this defense to steadily improve and keep us in games because I agree. I think our offense is going to be good enough to compete week in and week out. And, hopefully by the end of the season, as long as our defense isn't really blowing it, they're going to be winning some games because of the way what they can do on that side of the ball and the continued improvement there. But with that said, let's keep it moving, full steam ahead. 1-2, that was a huge win. 0-3 would have felt like season's over. Now you go on the road against a very beatable Las Vegas Raiders team. They don't have much of a home field advantage, even though it's in Vegas. I would imagine, I'd venture to guess that it's probably going to feel like a home game for the Bears. So that kind of plays into their favor. If you can find a way to skate into the bye, the Bears have the early bye in week 5 this year. You go into the bye 2-2. Doesn't matter how you got there. Doesn't matter that you lost by 100 to Detroit. Doesn't matter that you choked on one against the Vikings. 2-2 is probably pretty damn close to where a lot of people thought you'd be, and you're right in it. You got a chance to do some things at 2-2, but 1-3 is a different story. So with that said, Mike, let's get into the keys. What is key number 1 for the Bears to go into Las Vegas and come out of there 500?
Key number 1 stacks on the point you just made there before asking me about my first key. They got to be up for this game. You got the bye week after. You can't be looking forward to the bye. I know some guys are already banged up a little bit. You got to get in there and play hard. You can't be looking forward to resting up during the bye week. They got to show up. They got to be ready to play. And the key here is you can't find yourself in an early hole. This team, defensively especially, is not built to play from behind. If they get one-dimensional offensively, that's when the sacks are going to happen. Even though the running game has not been strong through 3 weeks, they still have to have that balance. Do not find yourself in an early hole. I'm not necessarily saying fast start. I'm saying don't find yourself in a hole.
I like that one. 2 things about it. One, to your point about, obviously for anybody, playing from behind is more difficult than not. But the Bears specifically and their ineffectiveness in run defense, it just allows teams to lean into that run game. Pete Carroll's a good veteran, savvy coach. He will do exactly that. He'll look at something like 4 turnovers and be like, okay, well, that's not sustainable. If we don't turn the ball over, we're going to be in good shape against this team. So, yeah, that's a good one. I like that one a lot. And to your other point about Ben Johnson in general, one of my favorite things about him is that he seems to be committed to that run game, regardless how piss poor it looks at times. He does keep a decent balance, and will continue to pound it just to kind of keep the defense on their toes and, open up the rest of his scheme. But, yeah, that's, a great key on the road. Be in it early and often. What is key number 2?
Key number 2 is you got to stop the Raiders' run game. They are one of the worst teams in the league, maybe last in the league in yards before contact for their ball carriers. I want to say they're last in the league in yards before contact for their ball carriers. And you just can't let Ash Genty start getting downhill, getting some steam, getting some confidence. He's early in his career. I think he's going to be a good running back in the NFL. But right now, he's yet to have a strong game, a breakout game. Don't let it be against you. Find a way to slow him down. Don't let him get some big runs. Neutralize that run game, and you're giving yourself a good shot.
I mean, he was touted as a game breaker. He was that next guy, that running back that's worth taking high. Hasn't proven to be it, but you certainly see that in the tape that he put out there throughout his college career. He's a guy who can bust one out at any moment. So, yeah, you got to keep him under wraps. Don't let him get loose. Don't let him, feel that sort of confidence rolling and kind of let it rip from there. It seems like Grady Jarrett might not play. Maybe. Sneaky. Not the worst thing in the world to get Billings on the field to kind of help with that run stopping. But we'll see what that looks like. Key number 3.
We had at least 2 of these this past game, and we need one of them at least this upcoming game. It changes the game. We have not been accustomed to these as Bears fans. We need an explosive touchdown. honestly, before this past week, you kind of feel like as a Bears fan, the last time you remember explosive touchdowns was when Devin Hester was returning kicks, or our defense was scoring touchdowns on that side of the ball. We had the flea flicker, which I know is a little gimmicky. You can't count on that kind of stuff every week. But the pass to Roma Dunze was explosive play as well. Even the screen pass to DeAndre Swift that went for like 50 yards. We need one or two explosive plays against this Raiders defense. It'll open it up. It'll open things up in general, but hopefully open up the scoreboard. I'm looking for an explosive touchdown, one explosive touchdown, and I feel like we got a good shot at winning.
I love that, Key. It's maybe my favorite one, not just for this game in particular, just in general with this offense moving forward and Caleb Williams' development and the career and trajectory and all that sort of thing. I mean, just the fact that he's taking more of those shots now is encouraging to me. I would imagine that's a lot of Ben Johnson being in his ear. But you see all the advanced analytics, the EPA per play shit. It's like these guys who just give it a chance, it's such a difference maker. I look at Jordan Love, and I still am not super sold on, like, Jordan Love is that great, right? But he throws the ball downfield, and it just softens everything underneath so much because teams have to respect that you're going to do that. And it just opens up the field, gives you a chance to operate all over much more efficiently. And I think it's something, to your point, especially in a game on the road, you get one of those explosive touchdowns, it's a backbreaker, right? Maybe a team can start to fold a little bit and you're able to run with it from there. So I absolutely love that, Key. Do you have any thoughts as far as you think Bears go in there and get it done this week? What's your vibe overall in the game?
I think they can. This team is not ready to be a surefire lock for a win. Credit to you for having the balls to pick them last week in that spot. I think they can go in and get a win. I think they can go and get a win somewhat comfortably. It will take their defense having another good game. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. The one thing I will say in a positive light about this team is I think offensively we could probably bank on about 25 points plus this week. Just a matter, will defense show up? Can we generate any takeaways? That kind of thing. So, I mean, if you were asking me to pick, I probably would pick the Bears this week, but not with a huge degree of confidence.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, full transparency. Raiders is one of my best bets this week. Raiders money line. I don't know. I wouldn't call it like a lit down after the high. I just think the Bears are a little overvalued after that game, and I could see them, coming down to earth a little bit. And I credit. Maybe I give Pete Carroll too much credit, but I still think he's a good football coach. I think he'll have a conservative game plan. To your point about the turnovers. On that kind of, I don't know, maybe like an outlier data point, there's not going to be 4 turnovers from the Raiders this game. I think they'll take care of it. I think they'll, play within themselves. But to your keys, you get off to a decent start. You don't have to play from behind. Key number 1. Key number 2, you don't let Genty get those explosive plays. You kind of keep him under wraps. And then key number 3, conversely, you are the one who are getting those explosive plays. You get at least one of those kind of big-time touchdowns. You're going to be in good shape. I think those are great. That's a great game plan to get out of there with the W. What's up?
Doing a first in our Bears preview. I'm doing a 4th key. Lock in. All right, my 4th key is the Bears were able to keep Caleb clean last week. Walked away with a clean jersey, 0 sacks.
I think that was his first time since he was at Oklahoma that he didn't get sacked.
0 sacks. I'm not saying it's got to be a 0 sack weekend, but make sure you're blocking Crosby. Darnell Wright is looking like he might not play. Our offensive line's got to keep him pretty clean. He's starting to play, I should say, much better from inside the pocket and inside structure. I'd love to see that keep building. So that's going to be my 4th and final key.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that, the fact that we hadn't mentioned Crosby all the way to this point was probably a gross oversight. Dude's a monster out there. He is a big time difference maker. So I'm glad that you threw that last key in. Unfortunately, I'm not going to contradict myself. I'm going to stick to my, Vegas win prediction. I'm kind of with you. I think over would probably be a decent move. I could see the Raiders winning this game in the ballpark of, 28 to 24, 30 to 24, something like that. But unfortunately, I do think, they're the ones who come out on top. But I would be thrilled to be wrong, because I think 2-2 into the bye, given everything else that's kind of going on in the NFC with a lot of teams and the positions we maybe didn't expect them to be. I think you're right in the thick of the playoff race coming out of the bye if you get to 2-2.
And even if you're out of the playoff race to a certain degree, it at least keeps positive things going. And you could build in it. You're staying in it mentally. A 2-2 would be a great spot.
All right, let's go out to Vegas, get it done, and we'll be feeling good, feeling like we're ready to take on the rest of the league. You got any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Subscribe.
All right,
Peace.
let's get it, Bears.